And welcome to our August, can you believe it, August 2024 GAAPP Academy. This will be the first of two that we'll be doing, sharing member organization success stories. We absolutely cannot wait for that. That should be fantastic to hear all these lessons learned and all the great things that these organizations have been doing. So today I am lucky that I'm in the same place as Victor Gascon Moreno. We are here for a retreat together to work on GAAPP projects with the rest of the group, almost everybody. But it's very nice to be together in person, to see each other and not to be on Zoom for a little while. So today we will hear from Claudia, welcome, who is going to tell us about her recent successes. You can see them right there in Asma in Chile. And I'll be turning it over to Victor, who will be speaking in Spanish for the remainder of the conversation. And thank you both so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen. Bueno, primero quería introducirles a todos.
First off, I'd like to introduce myself to you all
Asma Chile.
And to Asma Chile.
Que te presentes a ti misma y nos expliques
would you please introduce yourself and let us know how Asma Chile works?
Se presente porque nos encanta también.
And how about things at home? Thank you so much for having me here. Victor said it, I am Claudia. I have the need.
Hay un programa en el Hospital del Tórax que nosotros más o menos somos como 20
we are
que recibimos biológicos.
20, 30 patients that receive biologics.
No nos dan los medicamentos. Entonces,
we don't get the drugs.
Un par de pacientes,
we get together a couple of patients
de pedir estos medicamentos. Entonces,
and we try to ask for these medications.
Por paciente, para paciente.
For patients, by patients.
Los que tenemos. Uno,
it's three goals we have. One, to visibilize to have access to biologicals and we will try to help one another to accompany in this venture, to accompany one another in this venture. Would you please briefly talk? Well, you've been in many projects.
Es ese gran proyecto que hablabas de traer los biológicos.
This is the big project of bringing biologics.
¿De dónde sale la necesidad?
Where does the need come from? How do we implement the thing now?
Sobre el proyecto.
Let's talk about the project. Five biologics came to Chile. The five, we only used 3. In 2016, I took part in a number of protocols, clinical trials, I mean. These drugs are highly costly. On a monthly basis, we have to estimate 1.2 to 2 million pesos that will be paid for those drugs. It improves life quality, but it does not necessarily improve disease, I guess she said. The Ministry of Health doesn't secure that medication. Patients that have serious asthma, with them we start the task. We have advocacy meeting after meeting. We want to get our voice be heard. We need to be heard.
Muy bien, me parece, bueno, me parece, no, lo confirmo porque
That is good.
en Chile que estás haciendo un gran trabajo y
I
estamos
confirm you are doing a great job.
seguir los biológicos. Si pudieras decir, sé que hay muchos factores que
I
contribuyen
know there's many
al
factors
éxito
that
de
contribute to
este
success
proyecto, pero ¿nos
in
podrías
this
decir
project, but could you please
realmente que crees que han
talk
contribuido al éxito
about how
en
you
el
have
proyecto
contributed
acerca de los
to
biológicos en Chile?
success? I mean, the biologics, how have they contributed to success in Chile?
La necesidad de que empaticen con esta enfermedad.
There's the need for
Número uno,
people
para
to
mí,
be empathic with this
necesito
disease.
perseverancia. Yo entiendo
Perseverance is
que
important.
todas las
I
organizaciones,
understand
todos los sistemas de salud en general,
that
muy
health systems in general are
finalmente
critical,
pierde la parte humana.
and we
ahí
lose
donde
the
uno-
human part, we lose the
la verdad
human
que
touch.
yo he querido varias veces como ya no quiero seguir. Y tú me has
It's like
escuchado
many times I've been overwhelmed saying, I don't want to keep going. You heard me say so many times.
Entonces, yo creo que es tener perseverancia.
I think it's a matter of persevering.
¿A dónde quiero llegar? ¿Cuál es mi
Where do I want to get? How far do I want to get? Which is my goal?
los medicamentos al que sean garantizados por el Ministerio de Salud.
Lo primero te voy a decir que no te vamos a dejar
We won't
nunca,
give
Claudia,
up on you, never ever.
que si es por mí vas a estar ahí toda la vida y te vamos a apoyar en todo lo posible, o sea que no puedes rendirte, no
We will
está.
support you in many ways.
Entonces, nos has hablado de que has estado trabajando con el MinSal.
You've worked with MinSalv.
Has trabajado también con voluntarios o miembros de tu comunidad para
You've
avanzar en este
asked
proyecto.
and you've worked with members of your community.
Sí, nosotros vemos más o menos como 3, 4 pacientes activos.
There's like 3 to 4 active members.
Que es muy activo con el tema de redes sociales. Y ella es la que se encarga y
There is one of the colleagues that is very active in the social media. She's in charge of the details.
el tema de Instagram, que es lo que
I send her some information so that she can post it on Instagram.
Tengo que armar alguna reunión.
Ya puedes continuar, Claudia, cuando quieras.
You can continue, Claudia, whenever.
¿Me escucha ahora?
Can you hear me now?
Sí,
Yes, we can hear you.
Se fue.
No pasa nada.
It's been, I was gone. It's okay.
Si yo tengo alguna reunión,
If there is a meeting, we have a community of around 50 patients. It's a WhatsApp community. We contain, it's a network of contention, so to speak, of support. We give advice, we exchange. Through that community, if I need a video or some experience in front of something, then there's always a member of the community that can send over a video or their input. Or sometimes they volunteer to join me in anything I may need.
Sigo que tu comunidad te apoye
So it's so good that you get support from your community, and it's so good to hear that you work on this together.
Aparte de todo el apoyo que te vamos a dar desde GAAPP y desde Sareal. ¿Nos puedes decir cuál ha sido?
Can you please say,
muchos problemas por
I mean, there's lots of problems down the path.
Decir como, en tu opinión, ¿cuál ha sido
in your opinion,
al que te has enfrentado o
which has been the greatest challenge you've been faced with?
Mira, voy a ser bien honesta con todo.
I will be very honest in my reply.
Cuando comenzamos esto,
when we started with this, they said it's very easy. The legal part is worked on, we sign, that's over.
Muy engorroso.
But the legal part is very cumbersome. It took us almost 2.5 years to have everything legally ready. We can always work better.
es el primer problema que de hecho yo siempre alguna vez he compartido.
This is the
Yo digo que
first
me engañaron.
problem
Me
that I
engañó.
have shared.
El tema legal, el tema de un papel para otro papel y todo eso.
You know, the
Segundo,
red tape, lots of paperwork that is needed.
lo que he tenido que pasar ha sido con los mismos pacientes.
And then patients themselves.
¿Quieres ayuda? Y no pueden, nadie puede.
Sometimes you ask for help and no one is
Me ha costado
available.
realmente tener esta relación hoy día con los pacientes.
So
Y
it's
ahora
been
la agradezco
difficult
muchísimo porque
to have this relation with patients, but now I'm very thankful for it.
funciona.
Because if I now ask for something, it works out
La
very
primera
quickly.
etapa, o sea, 2 años y medio, 3,
This is the first step, you know, it's up the hill, 2 to 3 years, where it's very difficult.
Yo creo que eso han sido mis mayores como obstáculos.
These have been my main hurdles, so to speak.
Es
Third,
las autoridades.
authorities.
Y el no poder hacerles
Not
ver la
being able to show them the need that we have
con este medicamento. O sea,
of, I mean, the need to have this drug.
Se choca, es como que llegas a una pared todo el tiempo.
You bump against a wall all the time. That's what you feel, even though you may have had progress done in the path. So it's a matter of raising awareness. I am glad that you speak about this, about how you have overcome roadblocks.
Para todas las personas que se han encontrado con este mismo problema, o sea que te agradezco tu...
And that you are not the only one, because lots of people have bumped against the same problem. I thank you for your candid comment. 2 more questions.
Mucho de tu valioso tiempo, pero
I know I'm taking up a lot of your valuable time.
en el proyecto de conseguir que
in this attempt to get biologics to Chile, where is the point where you may say, I've been successful? Is it in the private or public system? Where specifically?
¿Cuál es ese escenario para ti?
What is the scenario for you?
Mí, en realidad son 2.
There are 2 scenarios.
Pero uno, que los
One,
entren al GES y que
biologics should be part of the formulary. They should be guaranteed by the state, by the Ministry of Health.
A través de la, ¿cómo se llama? De Ricardo Soto. Pero es lo
Through
primero que
Ricardo
necesitamos
Soto.
lograr.
This is the first thing we need to get.
Con esta batería de medicamentos, créeme que la vida de 1,400.
The life of 1,400 people or families. We talk about patients and families, because it's not just the patient who is affected, it's the entire family, and the livelihoods of all of them will be improved. The main objective, before I die, I want to make sure that biologics should be secured for everybody, for absolutely everybody, without exception. This person has no money, that doesn't matter. They should be guaranteed access. This is my first goal.
Yo sé que lo conseguirás, Claudia.
I know you'll make it, Claudia, I'm sure.
Por hacer eso por tu país y por todas
and thank you for, standing up for your country and for your family.
En GAAPP hay otras organizaciones.
In GAAPP, there are other organizations that are under the same struggle,
Para conseguir
the one you are, to get biologics in their country.
Sé que les podrías dar
I know
durante 50 horas, pero
you could speak for 50 hours about all your experiences, but if you had to pick one piece of advice, which one would it be? Well, it's one, but they are all intertwined. In order to be successful in everything, is to be a loving person. I will love other patients as I love myself. So if they need it, I need it too. So with a loving view, I will persevere. Perseverance
va a lograr
will
ese tiro.
make the trick.
Yo siempre hablo del suplicio chino, cuando te cae la gota aquí.
I always talk about, the Chinese
Es largo el camino. O sea, nosotros llevamos más de 20
torture,
reuniones.
the drop that falls on the same place, one after that,
Pero
after the other, and it makes the
perseverancia
stone break. Well,
y
that's perseverance,
sostener a otra gente. Yo, como te digo,
to help other people.
son mucho en familias,
As I say, I work a lot with families,
con familias. Y
but
desde
they are
ahí
not
yo
patients.
digo,
They are families, as I say. That's that's
tiene que
how
haber
I
familias
see them.
porque las autoridades son como peces.
Authorities are
Pero yo creo que con
like
perseverancia y cariño,
fish
amor,
in the water, they
vamos a
escape
poder lograrlo.
quickly,
Para
but with
todos igual.
perseverance and love, we will make it happen
Un gran
for all
consejo,
across the
Claudia,
board.
tienes razón, perseverancia
Perseverance
y sientes igual que te quieres a ti.
and
Muchísimas
loving others just the way you love you. Thank
y
you.
muchísimas
Thank you so
gracias por
much.
tu tiempo hoy.
Thank you
Y
for your
sobre
time.
todo, muchísimas gracias por tu perseverancia y
And
por
thank you so much for your perseverance.
pacientes de asma en Chile y GAAPP, como te he dicho muchas veces, estará a tu lado y GAAPP y Sareal ambos estaremos a tu lado para
GAAPP and
ayudarte.
Sariel will always stand by you.
Muchas gracias y
Thank you so very much.
¿Algo que decir antes de que nos vayamos?
Anything to say before we call it a day?
Primero agradecer.
First, let me
También
thank
te
you.
encuentras con muchas personas lindas.
There's lots of nice people around.
Que no logras llegar, no logras.
Of course, sometimes you get bitter because you don't make things happen as the way you want, but there's very nice people around.
Y como te digo, el tener el amor a ti mismo como a otro.
Love to yourself, love to the next right next to you. I won't ever forget the first time I saw you.
En la primera conferencia.
That was on the first conference.
Yo creo que fue un antes y un después.
And that was, a before and then after, a water-shedding moment.
O sea,
it was wonderful. There's no words to describe how thankful I am for all you've helped me.
Here today.
So thank you so very much.
So you.
O sea, no hay palabra para decir lo agradecida que estoy con todo lo que ustedes me han ayudado y me han animado a seguir. Así que muchísimas gracias y ánimo a todos porque la verdad que no hay otra cosa que hacer en esta vida que vivir. Y esto es parte de la vida.
Muchísimas gracias, Claudia, por tus palabras y por tu sonrisa, que siempre nos da el apoyo para continuar apoyando organizaciones como la tuya. Muchas gracias por tu tiempo y para los que estáis viendo este webinar, si queréis aprender más sobre Asma Chile y sobre su proyecto para traer los biológicos a Chile, pondremos aquí un link a su Instagram donde os animo a que sigáis a Asma Chile y que compartáis sus materiales y les apoyáis en este viaje para conseguir esa mejora en la salud a los pacientes de Chile. Muchísimas gracias y que tengas un buen día, Claudia.
Gracias.
Y nos vemos pronto.
Gracias.
Hasta
No,
luego.
nos vamos a ver muy pronto. Chao, chao, gracias.
Hello, Stephanie. It is so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
We're so glad. So you are part of the trio of speakers that we have representing North America. We have a colleague of yours from Africa as well as South America today. So we're very lucky to have you all. And as I understand it, today we'll be talking about harmonicas for health, but people may not know who you are. I know you very well, but could you introduce yourself, say your organization and where you're from?
So Stephanie Williams, I'm the Vice President of Education and Engagement at the COPD Foundation, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee in the United States.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's talk about harmonicas for health. Can you tell me a little bit about a little bit about the program, when it started, what it involves, who it's for?
I can try to tell you a little bit about it. I tend to get really excited about it and unload, but I will try to keep it short for you. So we started this program in 2016, and there were a group of us that got together, medical professionals that thought, we really should have a program that emphasizes breathing and correct breathing techniques for people who have chronic lung conditions. So we met and thought, the harmonica is the perfect vehicle for this, because actually most people don't know this or may not realize it, but the harmonica actually makes music when you blow through it, of course, but also when you draw a breath through it. So it is kind of like a little bit of inspiratory muscle training and expiratory muscle training all at the same time. So it mimics pursed lip breathing. And so people who are experiencing COPD really should have that pursed lip breathing exercise in their toolkits, but many of them don't actually use pursed lip breathing. So we thought this is kind of a fun but sneaky way to get them to do their breathing exercises and have a little fun.
That's fantastic. So for a lay person like me, why is that good for you? Why is it good for you to practice that? What does that do for your lungs?
So when people are living with COPD, oftentimes they can get a breath in. They can take a breath in very, very easily, but they have a hard time getting that breath up and out of their lungs. And so they can have what we call air trapping. So pursed lip breathing actually creates a little bit of back pressure in the lungs so that air, that old air, can come up and out. So here's the catch. That's not your go-to. That is not something that comes to the front of your brain if you're having anxiety or you're exerting yourself and you're feeling short of breath. Your instinct is not to say, I think I'll take a moment and breathe in for 2 counts through my nose and out for 4 through my mouth. Right. So that's not your instinct. You really need to train yourself to be able to use that in for 2, out for 4, in through 2, out 4. So you want to make sure that you're able to practice that when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, you have the ability to pull that forward, and it's more like muscle memory.
That makes perfect sense. You're just more likely to do it because it's just become part of your management of your condition, right?
Exactly.
Very nice. That's very nice. So I think I know some of the answers to this, but I'm so interested to hear from you why you think it's so successful. Why do people with COPD like it so much? Why do their physicians and their healthcare teams like it? What makes it a successful program?
I think the number one thing is that it is fun. It is fun. But the real catch here is that most people have never really played the harmonica. So it's a level playing field. If they happen to go to a group setting, a group class, there's not going to be 1 or 2 people in that group that are professional harmonica players. So everybody comes in with kind of a basic understanding of what a harmonica is.
Yes, they've seen them.
Right. I've seen it. I kind of get it. It makes noise, but they don't necessarily know how to play. So everybody is starting out from scratch. So I think that's one thing. And the other piece of it is I do think that learning process builds a lot of camaraderie. And for people who are living with COPD, often, sadly, they find that their world is shrinking a little bit. They find themselves, having a lot of doctor's visits or requiring oxygen to leave the house or things that keep them from being as social maybe as they once were. And to have a group like this where they can socialize and be active and engaged, it's just something that is really appealing to them and keeps them coming back time and again. So for the healthcare professional side, the draw for that is this is the only program that exists that isn't just piecemeal. This is an actual program that takes them through, lesson 1 through lesson 5, and just kind of shows them step by step what they should be doing, what they should be talking about. There's no guesswork in it. And they don't have to be musical geniuses either. They just have to be willing pick up the banner and run with it.
That's great. So what it sounds like is this is like a ready-made program that almost anybody, right? We're not professionals, like you said, but almost anyone could implement if they wanted to help their patients. So again, for the other conditions we cover, it might not be harmonicas for health, but there might be something similar that people could do that would A, be good for the patients, B, be good for their, their physical health and their mental health, right? Because it would reduce isolation or they'd be among other people who were experiencing what they were experiencing. And then it comes in I don't want to say curriculum. What would you call it?
I would kind of call it a curriculum, at least a guide. There's some guidance there. So maybe curriculum is too tight, but
you understand what I mean. Well, I'm trying to think of a better word, right? But it's almost like it's ready made. It's like a toolkit.
Turnkey, yeah.
Yeah, so that anybody can implement it, and I'm sure it's written at a level that's appropriate for patients and, of course, the people who are teaching them that may know nothing about this. So it's a win-win no matter how you cut it.
That's right. And aside from being written, our materials are generally written around the 8th grade level.
Right.
But these also have some lovely illustrations. So it's very expressive and shows a lot of different techniques in imagery instead of just words.
I love that. Now I want to get my harmonica out. Not today. No one deserves that. Let me ask you, because I think we really do learn a lot from talking about our lessons learned. Were there barriers that you can share with us to implementation, to development, anything that would help someone who was doing something similar out with their community?
I think what we learned have been so many things, but I think what we have learned is to create a program that always has room for growth. And so trying to construct it from the beginning in a way that we knew we could build on it to easily do translations or to easily add music later on. I think taking the time at the beginning to really make sure that we were not boxing ourselves in and keeping our options wide open, I think that was something that I would share with anyone that wanted to start a program.
That's helpful. So you always knew it could be added to, that it could be something bigger, that you could change it, and putting the planning in on the front end prevented you from then hitting obstacles later if you did want to do those things.
Exactly, yes.
So this is a little bit of a side question, but I think it's important. Everybody's so busy. How do you justify taking that extra time to plan? Right? I need a minute or a week or two or a month to run this by my wise people, talk to patients and see if they'll use it. I'm sure that's part of the process. So how do you make that happen?
At the risk of sounding like I have it all together, because I don't, I have this saying that my mom taught me, and she says, if you don't have time to do it right the first time, how are you going to have time to do it again? And so I think it's just really important to take a step back and realize, as excited as you are about the implementation process and getting a product to print or getting it out to the public, to have a product that's out is one thing, but to have a product that has a long-term potential is something else entirely. So just kind of building that into your style and to your workflow, it's pretty important.
It is. I think we now all have to have this on our quote board, because that's something I think that could help us no matter the project. It's spending that time on the front end really does save you time on the back end. And then on the back end, then you could be planning for the next project that well, right? I think that's wise. Your mother's a wise person, was very wise. Let me ask you about metrics. So not everybody's like most joyous question, right? Or most joyous point, but we must show the value of our programs, and we must also be able then to know if we're on the right track so that we can change things, modify our approach if we need to. So how has it been gauging the success of your program? How have you done it? And do you have any recommendations on that front for people?
So we have spent a good bit of time figuring out ways to connect with our end user. Our situation is a little different than most people's because we are connecting with individual users who are just doing this program at home on their own, as well as people who are using this in-person settings, also virtual settings. So we've spent a good bit of time figuring out how we can connect with each of those end users and get their feedback, because that is important. I don't want to have a product out there that just kind of almost does the trick, right? It's like, oh, that's really almost good. I do love to get their feedback and their input because it just helps to make the program stronger. We have done some informal survey type questions with some group settings.
Oh, okay.
And we've gotten some fantastic feedback from them. Enough to say we have anecdotal evidence that shows that there is improvement in mucus and that kind of thing. We have also sent out individual survey cards to some individuals who are doing it, like I said, just at home on their own. So when we get that feedback in, we can look at it a little bit differently than we do the group feedback. So we're saying this person doesn't have the benefit of having the socialization, or they don't have the benefit of having a facilitator standing in front of them, guiding them through the lessons. So what might we need to change for those individuals who are learning on their own as opposed to group or virtual settings? But we do have a few documents that we have partnered with other groups to try and get larger response rates. And we take all those very seriously and try to incorporate all that feedback into the program for future classes.
I love that. The other thing about that is that what you're speaking about is something that people can do. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to get that feedback, and you have to figure out postage and, that type of thing. But you could use a free platform like SurveyMonkey to get information on, user satisfaction or that type of thing. And those could be free platforms that you could program in a language that was applicable to you, say if you were a different GAAPP organization.
That's right. And we have even used just kind of this self-reporting. So when there's a group that meets in a hospital support group setting, for example, a lot of times we'll ask them to just do an informal poll of their group that's before them. So then we don't have to wait on 10 different people to figure out how to log into a SurveyMonkey or whatever. So we have one reporting person from that facility that reports back into us. So that's kind of cut out the middleman quite a bit and worked well.
And you're doing it different ways. There are options then for the individual at home. I like that too. So it doesn't have to be something that's a clinical trial to find out how your program is performing and if there are changes you need to be made or what language people want this translated into, et cetera, right? You can get that feedback more directly. I really like that. So last thing, if you had one piece of advice for an organization, a person like you, if you could go back now all those years and say, okay, here's what I would do differently, or here's what's something that's helped us to thrive. Well, you could have two if you want it. But one piece of advice that you would give someone in a similar situation to help a program like this thrive.
Just one or two? I think I can narrow it down to one.
Okay.
I would say so at the COPD Foundation, we always bring patients in, right? So we're always bringing them in to get their opinions, to make sure that their voices are heard. But in this particular instance, we knew that we were going to get their feedback and we knew that we were going to seek their input, but we did it a little bit later than I think we should have.
Okay.
I would have brought them in early. And because there would have been some things that we would have changed from the get-go that we didn't catch until we brought them in, and that was a couple of months into the process, which doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're in program development that way, it is a long time. So I would say bring your patient population in, bring that patient voice in much earlier, bring it in at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a great advice. That's really great advice because 2 months in, you're off to the races. Now
Right,
everybody wants to do this. They've heard about it. It's out on
right.
your social media, etc. So this goes back to your mom's great advice about making sure, right, that you're putting that on the front end. We need to learn from her. But I really think that's true, and making sure any other stakeholders, patients may be one, but for other programs, maybe in advocacy or other pillars, let's say, it could be physicians, it could be administrators, it could be ministers of health, etc. But making sure you talk to everybody on the front end, not easy, but worthwhile.
Very much. That's the best piece of advice I have.
That's great advice. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this. We'll make sure that we put the information on each of the programs talked about here today in the caption. And I really hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much. Hope to
Thanks,
see you soon.
Stephanie. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joseph, for being here with us today. I know that the community is thrilled to hear more about World Environment Day, and you'll be telling us about that. So I want to get started. Tell us who you are and where you're from, what organization that you represent.
Okay. My full name is Joseph Senyo, and I'm from Ghana, and I've been with an organization by name Community and Family Aid Foundation since 2005. But before then, I was a volunteer for quite a number of organizations for some time before. I established one that was aimed at addressing quite a number of developmental issues. And so we've been around for all this while working on different projects and programs, depending on the community, people and communities, and then the nature of programs we want to do. So that has been one of our hallmarks to date.
Wonderful. So we have a lot to learn from you if you've been doing this for a long time. So thank you for sharing with us. I think
And we are also based in, my organization is based in West Africa, especially Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the in the city, Accra. Apart from Accra, we do a lot of activities in different regions. We currently have 16 regions, but we are in the central, the city, and the eastern part of the country, and then at times the northern part of the country.
Wonderful. So a lot of impact around where you are. Can't wait to hear about that. So I know you have much going on. The particular project that we're going to talk about today is the World Environment Day project. So can you tell us a little bit about that and the success you had working on that?
Now, the World Environmental Day is normally celebrated almost every year on different themes. So our most of the time our press release focus on the theme. So this year's theme was on our land and our future.
Mm-hmm.
And then apart from the global theme, each and every country chooses which topic or issues that is they would like to work on or highlight as far as the contribution to World Environmental Day celebration is concerned. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so this year we restricted ourselves to the global theme, which we think there's not much to deviate from, because our land, our future is all that we are thinking of making sure that we do what is right to secure sound environmental health for ourselves. And when we do that, we are not only doing it for the future, we are only doing it for ourselves. We save the environment, we save our future, we save our life, we save everything that sustains life.
It's beautifully said, absolutely beautifully said. And I hope people are hearing that. Tell us what happened then. What did you do on World Environment Day?
Now, and on this year, the special 2024 World Environmental Day, we plan of the 3 major events. One was to issue a national and global press release, and then engage in a series of what we call social media outreach, then participate in a national event. For instance, in Ghana like this, we have the Ghana EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Then we have NGOs who are working in the areas of environmental issues, especially the Ghana Sustainable United Nations Sustainable Development Goals platform. It means we have a network of NGOs who are working on specific issues under the 17 goals of the UN SDG. So we are a member of that platform, and so we're looking at that. And then personally, we were looking at a tree planting campaign in the community. That was our major tree activity we had in mind.
So that's a lot. I love the approach, right, of trying different ways to get the word out. If it's social media, it can then be a campaign, like you said, for planting trees. So the idea is to do many things, right, to reach people. You're more likely than to reach people that way. So fantastic. I'd love to hear more about that. What are the things that you think you did right? What are the things that you think you did well and that contributed to your success that other people could learn from?
Yes, we realized that among the three major events, we said we were looking at tree planting, we were looking at participating in the national event, and then we were looking at social media blast or social media outreach where we want to use different platforms to spread the message. And we realized that now the internet connectivity is all over, so people can read, so people can hear, people can see, and then it doesn't cost too much to, send a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all other venues. So we realized that most of our messages on social media went viral or were received by so many organizations, and that went far. The other few activities like a national event and then tree planting were a bit limited. In other words, few participation because it depends on the community, the response, availability, time, and then the stakeholders you want to engage. So that was what happened.
That's interesting. I love that you use social media so successfully. And that obviously it takes some time to grow a community on social media. But once you have that, the value is just the return is so large, right? Being able to reach so many people so quickly. And I appreciate that. You talked about the stakeholders, the other stakeholders that you were reaching. How do you find that it's best to engage people or reach out to people who are new to you? If they're not familiar with your social media, et cetera, how do you get to them?
Yes, we have what we call stakeholders mapping. In other words, whatever action you want to take or any activity you want to do, you should have who comes first, which real-time people will be are in charge. For instance, if I mention the Environmental Protection Agency, they are under the Ministry of Environment in my Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology in my country. So in the community, we have a community called Begro in the eastern region. You cannot do anything without letting the environmental office know, the metropolitan office, and then when you want to connect the issues to health, you make sure that you ensure the district health directorate can also come in, and then they can also talk about the environment in connection with health issues related. So this is how to map out and then who is available. Now, if you want to work schools, we cannot, we have in our project, we have what we call youth adult partnership. In other words, if we leave a segment of the population as when they get there, they will know. We have to carry them along. So the issue of bringing schools, children to understand the need to protect and participate in activities involving the environment is quite critical. So this is how we normally try to mobilize stakeholders. We look at who matters most from the traditional authorities, parent network, youth associations, groups, women's, young hopefuls, and all that, and then institutions.
So you were really doing your due diligence to find out exactly who needs to be involved.
Yes.
So, Joseph, it sounds like to me there was so much planning that would have gone into this, right? You don't rush into it. You make sure you cover all your bases, so to speak, and talk to all the people in order that you need to and get the right, the right handshakes, the right approvals, essentially, and make sure that the right people are included. So I think that's a good lesson for all of us, because I think we want to rush into things, right? We're patient advocates. We're excited, or we're community advocates. We want to start, but I can hear very clearly all the planning that went into yours. So I think that's a good reminder for us. So tell me this, because whenever I implement a project, there's always something that I did not expect that happens, a surprise or a barrier, an obstacle. Did you have any of those for this?
Obstacles? Yes. When we talk of obstacles, then we are looking at, we were looking at Tree for Life, where we were trying to get some seedlings and red time materials for, because environmental issues are not only theory, but they're also practical issues, action. If you talk about tree planting, then you should have all the variety of trees and then the places you would like to. But that's where there was a bit of challenge because we didn't get the organization that's offered to give us over 500 seedlings and tree seedlings for planting could not timely honor their part of their deal. So that was set back to the tree planting activity that we planned, and then last minute we have to make do what we have. So that is what happened. We couldn't get the 500 pieces of seedlings to plant in the community.
I imagine that was a big disappointment. The thing that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was trying to say what you said was right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Joseph. One of the things that then is nicely done about how you sort of planned this project was that if you then didn't have those seedlings, you still had so many other elements to the day that even if that one piece fell through, you had all these other things that you were doing, right? That would make the day a rich experience and still get toward the impact that you were looking for. So that's also, I think, a nice lesson for us too, to make sure it has those different components, right?
Yes.
So last question for you. What one piece of advice would you give to other organizations looking to do something similar to what you did with World Environmental Day? What would you tell them?
Yes, it's like it depends on what you put on. For instance, we have let's say different plans, plan A, B, C. So, and then we have different activities. So once we didn't stick to only one activity. If there was a disappointment, what we do, the next activity, we put it into action. That is what make it successful. We said we are going to issue national and global press release. We did, and we made sure we circulated it to the right authorities, and then we reach out to as many people as we can reach out to. That was done. Participation in the national event, of which our volunteers and staff were at hand to also participate in the location that was organized. And then the issue of our plan for the seedling for planting, which could not was not honored. But we know year comes and goes. So if this year next year it has taught us a lesson to know who to trust and when to know when to what to do when the disappointment comes. Either we also get our own seedlings than to rely on what didn't materialize in the end, because the excuse was too much.
That makes sense. So you had multiple plans then. You'll know for the future then, right, to have those other plans, plan B essentially. But it sounds to me like it was a fantastic event. I saw the pictures that were online, and we'll make sure that people have access to that so that they can see on social media what the outcome was and they know about this project. So I just want to say, Joseph, this has been really helpful, and I really appreciate you just sharing the experience with us because I know it was so successful and probably really rewarding for you. So thanks so much.
Thank you.